Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Growth Execution podcast. We're here every week to talk with people who are going to give you insights into how to build and grow your business. Delighted this week to be joined by Trina of Trina L Martin International. Trina, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
It's a genuine pleasure. Really excited with what you've got to talk about today. And I wondered if we could just start, as we usually do, with your journey into business and entrepreneurship. How did you get going?
Oh, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I was in the military, I've worked in corporate, and finally I just said, you know what? I want the freedom to do what I want, spend more time with my children. So I decided my dream of always having my own business, I've decided, you know what? I am going to do it. So that's how I got started.
Brilliant. How long ago was that?
I've been doing like consulting and things like that for many years over the years, but this last go round happened probably in about 2018, where I said, you know what, I'm done. I really want to focus on having my business and developing that freedom that everyone wants in their life.
For sure. And one of the things, and particularly, I know the book that we'll talk about in a sec as well, is about how you can help kind of people almost organize themselves and kind of go through steps in order to get themselves to a position that they have the confidence and the capability to do what you've done. Would you mind just telling us a bit about that and a bit about the book that you've written?
So my book is called From a Mess to Amazing, 7 Steps to Create the Life You Deserve. And basically, thank you. And basically what it is, it's half memoir. I'm talking about real life things that happened to me, and half self-help, if you will, or inspiration. And basically it just talks about my journey of all the things I've been through. I had a traumatic childhood with an abusive mother, destroyed my confidence, my self-esteem, and how that played into my decisions throughout my life. And it played out with having bad relationships with men. And even though I had that traumatic part of my childhood, as a result, I ended up becoming a type A, very successful, very driven person. So probably about 10 years or so, I kind of had a dark period in my life where I felt like a failure as a mother. I felt like things were just closing in on me. There was one thing after the other. And I said, well, how can I be so successful and driven on the outside, but then I struggle with self-esteem and all these things on the inside? So I decided to write this book because I said, well, if I'm feeling like this, I know someone else is. And a lot of times we think, okay, I've made this mistake, I've made this poor choice, and that's it. We can't rebound from it. But I wanted people to know that if you took these steps, you can change your life, because your past doesn't define you. And, we're all human. We all make mistakes. So that's not something that you should just beat yourself up on and think that your plan or God's plan for you is destroyed because you made mistakes.
Yeah, wonderful. And look, there will be so many people, I'm sure, listening to this right now, just, who have been there or perhaps who are going through it right now. And thank you for sharing that story. And one of the first of your steps is about changing mindset. And I agree with you. I think that's got to be the big shift, hasn't it? How you change the way you look at your own life and what's out there. How do you coach people to get that mindset shift? Because it's the hardest thing, right?
It is. It is the hardest thing, and it's the hardest thing for people to come to terms with, because we've been programmed, whether it's good or bad, we've been programmed in our life. So I always work with my clients and say, you kind of have to deprogram yourself. Whatever that thinking was that you grew up with or that you've come to know, if that's not the mindset that is getting you and propelling you forward, we need to shift some things. So we need to really look and see what we need to do. Positive affirmations, looking at the positive side. I don't know about you, but I know some people that are always looking at the glass half empty. And that's just not a way that you have to look at your life. You have to be positive. You have to affirm that you are enough. What you're doing, you will be successful in whatever it is that you want to do. It doesn't have to be business. It could be you want to be a better human being, to a better person to your neighbor or your community. So you have to shift your mindset. And my next one is evaluate yourself, the next chapter. And really, us as human beings, confrontation with ourselves is the hardest thing.
Mm.
We always can see what's wrong in someone else or give someone else advice, but when it comes to ourselves, it's very confronting when you have to sit and really evaluate yourself. If you're really honest to say, okay, I want to change my mindset. Okay, but to change your mindset, you have to really look inside yourself and see what am I doing? How do I think? What do I feel? What am I believing? And really evaluate that and see if that's in line with what you want to do in your life and where you want to go.
Yeah, and this is what often kind of brings people to the kind of the precipice of looking over into potential entrepreneurship or changing their life fundamentally. And like you know, people have been in the corporate world or have been in another perhaps more structured environment, thinking about how do I look at this possibility? You know, it's so wide open if I really, really believe in myself and go for it. Do you find that there are some people who just can't get past that, or is there always a kind of that there's always a way of changing their mindset? And again, I'm thinking people listening to this who might be thinking, you know, I kind of know I've got to do something, but I don't know how.
There are people like that, but usually when people come to me, they're pretty much are willing, and that's the key thing. You have to be willing and open to
Mhm.
change and
Yeah,
changing your mindset. You can't say, "Well, I want to change my mindset," but then you don't want to let go of any old habits or any old beliefs because it's just like the saying, you can't move forward if you keep looking in the rearview mirror. And it's the same thing with your mind. If you want to change, you can change and you can do those things, but you have to be open and willing to it. No one can make you do it. It's not going to happen just magically. It's not going to be like fairy dust where, it's like, oh, okay, today I'm this whole new person.
look it up. It's all very
Yeah, it's,
different.
it's work, and people, have to put in the work. So you have to be willing to put in the work, and it's not going to be easy. So I'm not going to say that talking to me one time, you're going to be like, yep, that's it. It takes work, but you have to be willing to do it.
Sure, fantastic. Listen, thank you so much for that, and I'm sure people out there will be going to find your book, and we'll make sure that they've got a link through to it later on as well. I wanted to go into your business as well a little bit more, and I know you've kind of focused around the technology side of things particularly. So, talk us through how that really fits into obviously a lot of the humanistic side of things that you do as well.
Well, several years ago, when I went to the university, I got my degree in computer science. And for many years, over 2 decades, I was a programmer. I did digital forensics for some big major corporations. And when COVID hit, as we all know, everything shifted for everyone, especially businesses. People were doing business and trying to figure out how to do this business in a way that they had never known how to do business before. So, with my background in technology, plus being in the Navy as an intelligence officer, there's things that I was like, well, we're using this technology now, and you have to use it in a way that is going to really help you and not hinder you. So I decided to change my business because I was doing other things to make it um, catering to the small and medium sized business to help them use secure communication technologies to help integrate in their business and their operations. So just like you and I are talking right now, you're across the world and we're sitting looking at each other face to face. A lot of small and medium sized businesses had never done that before. They were like, oh my goodness, how do I do this? How do I remain afloat and be able to still operate and do this? Well, that's what I wanted to show them how to do, but take it another level as far as being secure. Because as we have all seen in the news, there are hackers, there's, the ransomware, things like that that are going on. And for the small and medium sized businesses that may not have a um, big IT department, if you will, like some of the big major corporations,
Yeah.
a hack could really destroy them. It could take down their operation for days or even put them out of business.
Mhm.
So I really wanted to show these businesses how to use the technology to stay operational, to communicate with their distant clients, their customers, and employees that may be remotely or working out in the field, but to do it in a secure manner.
Got it. And kind of two questions around that. First of all, have you noticed that there's been an increase in the sort of the ransomware and the hacking side of things? And secondarily, have your clients seen the opportunity there as well in terms of being able to reach, as we are, across oceans?
Yeah, well, for your first question, there has been an increase. Well, I don't even know if I should say increase, but I think we're being made more aware of it. And I don't know if you have kept up, but I know here in the US, a month or two ago, we had hackers that got into one of the major oil pipelines, which actually stopped oil from getting to like the East Coast. So people were out, fuel for several weeks. And then
Wow.
we had a ransomware attack on one of the uh, major beef facilities as well. So we're being more given more information about it. And so you think about that, if a hacker can take down a pipeline and just completely bring transporting fuel to a halt, what do you think it would do to a small or medium-sized business that doesn't have those kind of measures in place? And
Sure.
so when I bring things up to clients, this is what I tell them. I said, look, you're not this big corporation. How are you going to do this? And exactly with Zoom and all the things that we're doing now. And a lot of people didn't know. So for instance, if someone has a employee that may be working out in the field and they want to communicate with them and they said, well, you know what, I need this employee to give me this kind of information because it's very critical. Well, that's not something you want to send over email.
Yeah.
And people do it all the time. They send very sensitive information over an email, and that's not something you should do. So I try to give them tools and tell them how they can still communicate that information
Yeah.
without exposing themselves, where a hacker could get into email and say, oh, look at this, here's a bank account number, let's use
Yeah.
it.
Got it. And in terms of the opportunities that within that secure environment, and again, there's so many ways we can communicate, and as you say, some of them more secure than others. Do you find that the pandemic has kind of driven a bit of innovation in terms of how your SME clients are looking to engage with others?
I think it's made them very aware, and it's made them use this technology, because a lot of people have decided that, okay, we're not going to go back to a physical location.
Mhm.
So we're going to continue to operate remotely, whatever that may look like for their business. So in doing that, of course, you need to have secure communication technologies, not only for you, the business owner, but you have to teach your employees. You have to educate them on how to do this, because when you're in an office in one location, there's safeguards, and everybody kind of figures that the business takes on that ownership. But
Mhm.
if you're not going to go back to a business, because a lot of people realize once COVID hit, okay, I was spending money on rent for a business and the utilities and things like that. So they figured, you know what? Let's not do this anymore. We can be more profitable by doing this remotely and still continuing our operations. Well, that is true. And, that's a great thing to do. But if you're still not doing it securely, because we all know we all have our own internet at home and things like that. And people, they get a little lax. So they get home and maybe their kid had been on their computer and on a website or something and downloaded something that may have had a virus in it.
Yeah.
So then you get on your that same computer and then you're doing work for your business, and then before you know it, you're exposed. So just having that piece of the puzzle and of operations where you're not going to one central location where you can lock things down for everyone is even more imperative to know how to operate securely.
Brilliant. And I've got one more question about security, just because it's something I've wondered. WhatsApp. So is it end-to-end encrypted? Is it as secure as they say it is? Or should we be using something else like Signal?
Okay, so
So I'm very specific.
yes, so I like Signal. I always recommend Signal.
Mhm.
Now, Signal and WhatsApp were made by the same people, same developer. So like I don't know what happened first. I don't know if they created WhatsApp and decided to leave and go to Signal, but Signal is end to end encrypted,
Mhm.
meaning I can send something to you, you can send something to me. It's encrypted, and in the transport as it's traveling back and forth, no one can get in between in the middle and read what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with WhatsApp is who owns it? Facebook.
Yeah.
So that I should, have nothing else to say about that because
That's kind of what I thought.
right.
Now we've had an
We all
extra
know
view.
we all know how Facebook handles data. So
Yeah.
it's up to you. I recommend Signal. I think it's a much better option.
That is good enough for me. And thank you very much, Trina. I really appreciate it. So look, one of the other things we like to do on the show is kind of just ask you some quick fire questions about business, about life, things like that. So I wonder, first of all, is there anybody that's kind of like an inspiration to you? Anybody that you sort of think about as being somebody that you look up to who's helped perhaps to sort of be part of your process?
Not really one person. As I said, I had a traumatic childhood, so I kind of learned how to do things on my own because I was at a place where I was driven to succeed and to get away from home. But not one person would I say have had an impact on me. I love to read. I look at many different successful people and how they have done things. So I just look at everyone and see and try to learn and try to take key points from people who I know have done it and done it the hard way, who didn't just, have maybe a trust fund and a parent to pass down things, but who actually worked for what they have.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that you would kind of tell your younger self now, that the kind of things that you wish you'd known back when you first started out?
I would tell my younger self to do this sooner, that I was able and capable to do it, and to just really learn. Find a mentor, and that's one of the main things I wish I had a done. It's had someone to really kind of guide me through the process and tell me, okay, this is a turn you should go, or you should keep straight down this path. Just someone that you could go to for advice because I kind of learned the hard way and I've spent many, many, many dollars on things that didn't work or things that I shouldn't have done or people that I shouldn't have done business with. And
Mhm.
if I had have known better and had someone who had been there before to kind of guide me, those were the mistakes I could have, avoided making.
Brilliant. That's so useful. And thanks, Trina. Is there, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
In business or just ever.
Just ever. Just ever.
So I'm gonna tell you this one. This has nothing to do with business,
Thank you.
but it has served me well. So I retired as a naval officer, and before I became an officer, I was enlisted. Well, before I became this great calm person that I am today, I was kind of high strung, very I won't say out of control because that's kind of harsh, but I wasn't as calm and whatever. So I had a good friend. We were on active duty together, and I was being myself, what I would do, blah 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 blah. And this person said, I'm going to tell you something, and I don't care whether you like it or not. And he said, if you want to be an officer, you can't be an officer being like you are. They want people who are calm, who are collected, who think, and not just jump and react.
Hmm.
And this person was a friend of mine, and it kind of shocked me at first and took me aback. But then I took heed and I said, you know what? He's right. I react and I jump at things where I need to really be calm and collected. So that made me
Ah,
change. And hence, after I changed, is when I ended up getting my commission to become an officer.
brilliant. And that's what you talk about in the book, the mindset set shift, right?
Yes.
Right there. It's about this is what I was, and actually, if I decide to calm it down, as you say, then there's a different path that you can walk along. Brilliant. What would you say as a kind of what would be your advice to the final piece of advice to people who are looking to start out right now, people who are launching their businesses? What do you think that they should be most focused on?
I think people should, for one, if it's something that you really want to do it, but don't do it because you're looking to get rich. If it's really a passion and something that you really want to do and you know you can make a difference, then do it. But I wouldn't say that, oh, I'm going to do this because I'm going to get rich, because you're not going to get rich like that, because it's going to take many years to even see a profit. And if it's not something that you really enjoy doing, all the hard work that you're putting in, regardless of what the money is that you make, you won't enjoy it. So make sure that it's something that you really love to do and that you know it can help impact someone else.
Wow, that's such great advice, and thank you, Trina. Trina Martin of Trina Martin International, thanks so much for being a guest on the Growth Execution podcast this week. How can listeners get in touch with you?
They can go to my website. It is trinalmartin.com. If you want to book me to speak, if you want to purchase the book, my podcast, everything is at that website.
Perfect. And the book is called From Mess to Amazing, which I think is, again, a wonderful title. So listen, Trina, thanks once more for being part of the Growth Execution podcast this week. There is plenty more next week when we're back with another esteemed entrepreneur, somebody who's going to be able to help you to build and grow your business out. This has been the Growth Execution podcast. Thank you so much for listening in this week. Have a great growth week, and we'll catch up again next time. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.